here, as we are about to find out the identity of the first man guaranteed a place in the second Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup. Dave Bradshaw here alongside former British heavyweight champion Alex Shane. And Alex, we have seen Rampage Brown and Zack Gibson stand across the ring from each other so many times, but on very few occasions has there been as much at stake as there will be right here.
Well, when Marc threw down the gauntlet to Zack Gibson and told him that if he wanted a place in the Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup, he had to be back in New Generation Wrestling, and he had the match against Rampage Brown laid out for him, Zack Gibson said that that wasn't going to be a wrestling match, it was going to be a war, and that's exactly what happened with our first ever double knockout on this program. But Gibson just cannot afford a double knockout. He's going to need to use superior wrestling and superior strategy if he wants a spot in the Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup number 2.
How on earth, if you're Zack Gibson, do you defeat a man who knows you as well as you know yourself? That is the challenge facing Liverpool's number 1 in his home city right now.
And are you ready for the ovation and for the roof to come off the Liverpool Olympia when Liverpool's favourite British wrestling son walks through the entranceway for his spot at Destiny? Here comes Zack Gibson.
Here he is, the man who won the first ever Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup. And what a statement it would make, Alex, to the entire wrestling universe if Gibson could not only enter that cup a second time, but win it. What would that say to everyone watching, not only the Hart Smith family over in Canada, but wrestling fans all around the world?
Well, it's ironic because Marc, one of the things he's very keen to do in NGW is to reintroduce a stronger selection of rules for pro wrestling. Many say rules are meant to be broken. That's exactly what Zack Gibson believes. But the Smith and Hart family laid down the rules for this second tournament, and in essence, Gibson, through his sheer force of will, has forced those rules to be changed, which is what's led us to this 4-man knockout tournament final.
Well, it is game time. Let's take it over to our ring announcer, Ryan Devlin, for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, the following contest is your main event of the evening. That is the final of the Knockout Tournament. The winner of this match will gain a guaranteed entry in the prestigious Davey Boy Smith Cup. When the bell rings, the man in charge, Mr. Adam J. Introducing first, to my right, he comes just out from Leeds. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rampage Brown.
Quite simply, one of the most dangerous heavyweights in British wrestling, and in many ways, one of the hardest obstacles that Gibson could have had to face.
And introducing his opponent to my left, weighing in at 235 pounds, he is Liverpool's number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Zack Gibson.
The hometown hero who walks into the exact building where he won the Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup in the first place. He's hoping for lightning to strike twice, but Dave, I'm unsure if he can do it against Rampage Brown. This guy's a monster.
Really nothing to tell between these two men. With them having competed so many times, as I said, they know each other so well. So equally matched in so many ways. You see that collar and elbow tie-up to start things off. Rampage backs Gibson into the corner. And surprisingly, we get something of a clean break there.
And you know, if you think back to the first Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup, it was a round-robin tournament. Gibson drew with Nathan Cruz and he beat Wild Boar Mike Hitchman and Bubblegum in the finals. But you compare, oh look at that slap to the face, you compare those men to Brown, this is a whole different ballgame.
So Rampage Brown roaring at Gibson, something that would intimidate so many of his opponents, but Zack Gibson is just a man who knows no fear. And so Rampage doesn't have that advantage that he has against so many of his opponents.
There's very few men in British wrestling that are as explosive as Rampage Brown. But if I had to name a few, maybe Nathan Cruz and definitely Zack Gibson, the man that he faces here. And oh, there he is.
There's that explosive power that you were talking about as Gibson with the forearms backs Rampage Brown into the corner. Brown sent hard into the other side, and Gibson applying a front face, or maybe he's going to go for a suplex and nails it. Gibson floats over into the cover, only gets one.
Gibson will be looking for a variation of that. It's the twisting brainbuster and the Shankly Gate submission. Two moves that he's been very successful with. Alongside that, there is also what he calls a ticket to ride. It's that diving knee off the second rope. Rampage Brown will be looking for the Samoan drop and that devastating pile driver. And these go straight to the outside.
Rampage Brown so comfortable brawling on the outside, but Gibson won't mind that either, as you're seeing here. And it's got to be an advantage, Alex, as well. I know Rampage Brown will say he doesn't care what the audience thinks of him, but to have such a noisy crowd behind your opponent must on some level be a distraction.
Well, we knew that it was going to be loud and it was going to be packed when Liverpool's #1 enters the Liverpool Olympia for a slot in the Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup. But it's exceeded my expectations. It's raucous in here.
Went for a backdrop, did Rampage, but Gibson was able to counter it. Clothesline from Liverpool's #1. Sends his rival down. Gibson is building up a head of steam here.
Gibson has the height advantage. Rampage Brown, I would argue, has the strength advantage. Stamina, I would say, goes to Gibson, but you can't overlook Rampage Brown's ability to break the rules and feel no shame in doing so.
Brown found a way out of there. Sent Gibson face first into the turnbuckle, and then that suplex. Gibson landing on the back of his head, and that's bought Rampage Brown a bit of time.
And when you think back to the first Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup, the first open invitational included Marc Andrews before he went to TNA, before he was signed to WWE, and then the second Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup, the open invitational, we saw it earlier in this program, was Zack Gibson against Pete Dunne, who we know is setting the world alight in WWE. So the Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup has rapidly become a place to discover stars before the rest of the world, and Gibson wants to win that cup twice.
A real springboard for so many young talents here in British wrestling. This is, again, is another reason why winning it twice will be such an achievement. But for Rampage Brown, of course, an opportunity just to compete in that cup is what he's after here. And he may be well on course to getting that as he drops the elbow across the throat of Gibson. Just a 1 count.
And look at this headlock from Rampage Brown. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Nobody in pro wrestling anywhere in the world applies a headlock more viciously than Rampage Brown.
So he's got that right shoulder directly above the head of Gibson. That's the leverage he needs to get more and more pressure around the neck, cutting off the circulation to the brain, as Gibson knows he's got to fight out of this or he's going to fade fast.
Gibson, their referee, couldn't see it, but he used a closed fist to get out, and then straight to a European uppercut. Hits the ropes, comes back, and Rampage Brown, big elbow, knocks Liverpool's #1 to the outside.
That may, I know it doesn't look like it, but that may be a blessing for Gibson, because if he'd stayed in the ring, he would have been susceptible to a pinfall there.
And that count is on by referee Adam J.
Well, Rampage, I don't think even Rampage wants to win this by count out. Such is the ferocity of the rivalry between these two. Yeah, you see Rampage has broken that up by chasing his rival outside the ring.
And remember, only last week Zack Gibson had that incredibly physical contest with Screwface, which we saw also include Joseph Connors. So you've got to ask the question, what is the physical condition of Liverpool's #1 going into this match with Rampage Brown?
Yeah, big win for Gibson over Screwface. Rampage Brown beating Robbie X in his semi-final, this mini tournament. Gibson makes it in, beats the count, but it's out of the frying pan into the fire as there's a flurry of stomps there from Rampage.
And I mean no disrespect to Robbie X when I say this. I think he's one of the best high flyers in British wrestling today, but there's no comparison between Robbie X and Screwface when it comes to who is a harder hitting opponent to have.
Well, we've got to take our last commercial break. Rampage Brown versus Zack Gibson, the main event of our season finale, concludes when we return. Don't go anywhere. A spot in the second Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup is on the line between arch rivals Rampage Brown and Zack Gibson. And Alex, during the break, Brown has pressed home his advantage.
The punishment that Liverpool's number one has endured during our commercial, and it continues. Look at Rampage Brown, I mentioned earlier. He's a comfortable attitude, shall I say, when it comes to bending and breaking the rules, and Adam J is going to stay firmly fixed on him.
Brown taking the time to taunt this hugely pro-Gibson crowd in Gibson's home city. But this might be a mistake, you know, Alex. I asked earlier whether this crowd would start getting to Rampage, and I wonder whether that is what's starting to happen.
And Rampage there, standing on the fingers of Gibson. And you know, Rampage doesn't like to let it show when he is angry, but you can tell because the onslaught of aggression that emanates from him during a match rapidly increases. And you can see it there with just standing on the fingers of Gibson.
He's an angry man at the best of times. You don't want to enrage Rampage Brown, a very dangerous thing for this crowd to be doing on behalf of their hero. But Gibson, so tenacious, fighting back. Gibson, you can see with every fibre of his being what needs to be in this Davey Boy Smith Cup.
Huge belly to back suplex there, dropping Gibson right on the back of his head. And not only that match we mentioned earlier with Screwface, but now this contest with Brown has really had an effect.
Brown went for a cover, got two. And Rampage has really slowed this down, trying to wear Zack Gibson down and take the wind out of the sails of this crowd in the process, I think.
And stop the flow of blood to the brain. Remember, the carotid artery is the transportation system for that all-important blood to go to your brain. And slowly but surely, Gibson's going to lose that. I mean, very quickly, you will start to pass out. And you can see what Rampage is doing. Look, he's even covering the nose to stop Gibson breathing.
Yeah, that combination of a lack of oxygen and a lack of blood means, yeah, you're more likely to pass out. It also means you can't really think straight. So even if Gibson gets out of this, he's going to be less likely to develop a coherent strategy against Rampage.
Everything goes. Your equilibrium goes, your cardiovascular conditioning. Gibson needs to get out in the worst way. And it looks like, what's he going to do? Smart move.
Desperation move, though, and how much damage had already been done to Gibson. He's in that hold for a very long time.
Underneath that turnbuckle is a steel hook, and Gibson threw Rampage into it. Takes an elbow and charges again, and a big kick.
Rampage charging twice, both times Gibson had an answer. And there's an answer, a big drop kick from Liverpool's number one.
And possibly for the first time in this contest, the tables have turned, but Gibson is all out of fuel.
He's unable to take advantage, but at the very least, it gives him a chance to get some breath back in that body. Referee has a count on. If neither man can answer the count of 10, this would be another draw between these two. We've seen that before.
And this crowd is screaming. And none of them, including myself, want to see a double knockout. And referee Adam J has stopped the count early.
And Brown got to his feet. Gibson's up there now as well. These two men exchanging blows. Another finely balanced contest between Rampage Brown and Zack Gibson in the main event of our season finale. Shot on clothesline misses. Gibson with the running enziguri. Brown is down in the corner. Gibson lines him up. A back elbow from Rampage Brown.
Rampage up on the second now. That's a big man to fight. Goes for an axe handle. Gibson chops him to the throat.
Yeah, he blocked it. He blocked it.
It wasn't pretty, Dave, but it was effective.
Brown went down. Gibson with a clothesline. Gibson will go for the cover. Gets two. Has he got three? No. Very close though for Zack Gibson. A half a second away from a spot in the Davey Boy Smith Cup. He's going for the Shankly Gates.
And Rampage Brown is fighting. Normally Gibson spends the whole match working on that arm, but it looks like desperation. And Brown going to try and muscle his way out, and he does.
There's a great. Oh God! Look at that kick. Look at that kick. You hear that? Boot on skull from Rampage Brown.
Sound like a gunshot. in the Liverpool Olympian. He's going for that pole driver, Dave. Oh, Gibson comes out and rolls through. Oh,
into a pin, into a pin. Rampage's shoulders are down, but only for 2.
And Gibson's doing everything he can to keep the big man moving. And Samoan drop right on the ribcage of Liverpool's number 1.
Rampage is so exhausted, he hasn't even gone for the cover. Look how long he's taken to make the pin. Now he does. He hooks the leg. Is it enough? No. I think Gibson had time to recover.
And now, that cardiovascular conditioning advantage of Zack Gibson I mentioned earlier is really going to play a factor. It's the reason Rampage Brown tried to restrict the flow of blood and oxygen to Zack Gibson, and now it's starting to be the Achilles heel of Rampage Brown.
Brown, I think, is getting a little bit frustrated by his inability to put Gibson away, and maybe, Alex, he's going to go for that one move that he knows will end this infamy, the pile driver.
Good call, he's going for it, Dave. If he hits this, it's over. I mean over, and Gibson fighting with all he has. Oh, wow. Adam J squished, sandwiched in the corner there.
Oh, Rampage moves out of the way. Referee nearly got hit there. And now he does, oh my.
Wow.
Adam J just got nailed there by Rampage Brown.
And Gibson with a kick. But there's no referee. Twisting brainbuster, centre of the ring, Dave.
The referee's down, though. Referee's down. You can hurt the leg all you like, Zack, but there's no referee. Adam J knocked out by that collision with Rampage. Gibson could have had this one, but for that stroke of bad luck a moment earlier.
Look on the stage! Oh, it's Joseph Connors and Screwface!
Well, I fear Zack Gibson is about to find out that once you get tangled in Joseph Connors' web, it's very hard to get out. Here comes Screwface. Referee still down. Screwface with that boot to the face.
And does Rampage Brown even know this is happening? But that's a difference maker.
I don't think Brown has any idea what's going on. Referee certainly doesn't.
And referee Adam J had a 22 stone or 21 stone or however big Rampage Brown is, man, charge at him full force. And now, look, Brown's fallen victim to the fact there's no ref.
Rampage Brown going to try and stir this referee. Gibson is completely unconscious thanks to Screwface. Referee is awake. Adam J's got 2. No. Gibson got out. Gibson got out. Much to the anger of Screwface and Connors. Connors directing Screwface.
Oh, is he doing it? Oh God!
What's he doing? Screwface attacking the referee, and now Connors is in as well.
Connors knows exactly what to do to try and get in somebody's head. He challenged Gibson to forfeit the match for this spot in the Davey Boy Smith Cup, and now he's just going to steal it from him because you can't conclude a contest with no referee.
Rampage Brown just watching this happen.
Davey's going for that righteous kill, that DDT. It's Nathan Cruz.
That's Cruz. Cruz is in. Nathan Cruz cutting off Screwface at the pass. Ducking a clothesline from Connors. Nathan Cruz unloading on Joseph Connors. Those right hands.
Dave, it's electric here. And we have descended into absolute chaos in the Liverpool Olympia in the main event of this season finale.
Nathan Cruz just even the score. Connors and Screwface are double teaming him on the stage. But meanwhile in the ring, Zack Gibson is still down and Rampage Brown seems to be, he's looking for something.
Whatever he's looking for, this does not look good because referee Adam J. Oh no.
It's a chair, steel chair. Rampage Brown gonna put the exclamation point on this.
It was in this building and with a chair similar to that Rampage Brown broke the ribs of British wrestling legend Doug Williams.
Brown. Referee's up. Referee's seen him. Rampage with the chair. Gibson is a distraction.
Face first into the steel goes Brown.
Rampage Brown is reeling. Gibson sets him up. Twisting brainbuster by Liverpool's number 1. The cover. And Zack Gibson is in the second Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup.
Oh my God, he's done it, Dave.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the match, advancing to the Davey Boy Smith Cup, Liverpool's number 1, Zack Gibson.
2 whole seasons, but in his home venue, Liverpool's #1 Zack Gibson has done the unthinkable, breaking the rules laid out by the Smith and Hart family, and in the process, guaranteeing his spot in the historic second Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup.
What a battle between Rampage Brown and Zack Gibson. And how sweet it must be for Gibson, not only to qualify for this second cup, but to do it at the expense of a man who has been his arch nemesis for so long here in NGW.
Well, in the finale of last season, Gibson helped Team NGW rid New Generation Wrestling of the control. And it's taken him a whole season to get something he wanted, and he's just done it here because he's got a guaranteed slot in that tournament.
Zack Gibson, Liverpool's #1, marches on to the second Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup. For Alex Shane, this is Dave Bradshaw saying farewell from the Liverpool